Greetings, super friends. Jonathan Levy here, author of the Become a Superlearner book and online courses, and host of the Becoming Superhuman podcast. And today, I want to talk to you about a question I get asked a lot. Does this really work? After all, if you have visited any of our websites or you've seen some of our promotional materials, you could be forgiven for being a little bit skeptical. For years, we've been claiming that you can increase your memory and therefore your learning capacity by as much as 320% in just 30 minutes or less per day. It sounds like some pretty fancy marketing speak, but in all truth, it is actually backed by some real scientific research. Allow me to explain. In our courses, we teach a number of very powerful memory techniques that have been used since the days of Socrates and Plato. They include visual memory, dual encoding to pre-existing knowledge, and the method of Loci, otherwise known as the memory palace. And while these techniques have been used by mnemonists and memory experts since then, the truth is, only recently has the scientific community begun to put them to the test. Let's look, for example, at a recent study published in 2017 by researchers at the Radboud University in the Netherlands. At the beginning of this study, researchers invited 23 world-class memory athletes to participate in functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, and they measured their brain activity, blood flow, and activity in various parts of the brain. Now, initially, researchers believed that the memory athletes would have significantly different brains than normal people, or those who merely learn these techniques maybe as part of the study. After all, if you compare top Olympians like Michael Phelps to non-athletes, you find that they have very distinct genetic advantages like bigger lungs or longer limbs and things like that. Instead, however, researchers actually found that the only differences between the memory athletes and everyday people were the connectivity patterns spread out across 2,500 different connections in the brain. In particular, the memory athletes had 25 connections that were very significantly differentiated from those with average memory skills. Now here's where it gets really interesting. At this point, researchers brought in 51 average people and broke them into 3 groups. One group learned the same techniques that the memory athletes were using. The other tried to remember sequences of words like the rote memorization that you might have done in grade school. And of course, there was a control group. Throughout the study, researchers guided one part of the groups, that first group, on how to use the method of Loci technique. All of the participants practiced in one of those 3 ways for 30 minutes a day for 40 days, which is ironically the same amount of time that the memory portion of our courses lasts. And they were learning lists of new vocabulary words. At the end of this 40-day period, each of the participants in the memory technique group was able to more than double their memory capacity, going from remembering just 26 words to a whopping 62. Those using the short-term memory techniques, 11 more words. And the control group, who tried to memorize words without any form of specialized technique, were only able to add a measly 7 words to their scores. And get this. Even after 4 months, researchers found that those who were trained in the memory techniques were able to retain their extremely high scores, whether or not they practiced every day. In fact, researchers were surprised to find that after being exposed to these memory techniques, the brains of participants actually started to change, as seen in the fMRI scans. Like the memory athletes, those who'd been exposed to these techniques had significant changes in the 25 areas that are most notable in the memory athletes. Primarily, they found hubs of connectivity to 2 specific brain regions. One, the medial prefrontal cortex, is known to be active when individuals connect new knowledge to pre-existing knowledge, the other core tenet of our memory training programs. The other area, the right dorsal lateral prefrontal cortex, is known to be involved in strategic learning. So what does all of this mean? Well, to put it simply, without exception, every memory athlete studied did not have any specific advantage. Instead, they merely trained with the very same age-old techniques that you too can learn in the comfort of your own home. What's more, in just a few short weeks of training, people with average memories were able to literally change their brains permanently. If this doesn't prove without a doubt that memory techniques are the real deal, well, I'm not sure what does. So what's stopping you from improving your memory? All it takes is just 30 minutes a day, and the effects, both in terms of how you learn and in terms of how your brain functions, will continue to pay dividends for the foreseeable future. But that's all the time we have for today. If you guys would like to learn more about how to actually use these 3 core memory improvement techniques that we talked about in this video, please take a moment to hit the link in the description below, where you can join in on a completely free 1-hour memory and speed reading seminar with yours truly. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and please make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more memory enhancement tricks and tips.